Boker Tov, everybody. So, as you can tell, this was a special Torah reading today. It is a particular time. It's the fast of the 17th of Tammuz, and I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the intersection of this week's regular Torah reading, which is Pinchas, and the particulars of the fast of the 17th of Tammuz and what it signifies. So the 17th of Tammuz signifies the beginning of the 3 weeks, the time where we're marking the time up until the destruction of the temple. So the 17th of Tammuz was the day that the walls were breached going in into the area, into the city, and then the armies came in and they eventually desecrated the temple, and we lost control of the temple, and that's not something that not only happened once, but it happened twice. So what does this have to do with this week's portion? I think that there is an interesting connection because something notable that happens in Pinchas, it's named after Pinchas. He's a notable character in the story because there were 2 people who were committing an act that was it was immodest, and it was a desecration. So Zimri and the Midianite woman Cosby. So what they were doing was definitely unacceptable. They were I think they were sexually immodest in a holy space, right? And so what happens is Pinchas takes action and he drives a spear through them. So what are we supposed to take from this? It's a very gruesome depiction, but clearly Pinchas is hailed as heroic for his act, right? So I think there are a lot of things we can draw from this story. I think on the one hand, you see someone who takes action when no one else does. And I think there is value to that. I think the way he went about it was lauded in its time, but I think in our time today, we wouldn't do that. But the connection I want to make to this time when we're beginning to mourn the Holy Temple is the fact that the destruction of the Holy Temple, the Talmud ascribes it to 3 factors. Number 1 is idolatry. Number 2 is licentiousness. And number 3 is murder. And what happens in this story? You see a Midianite woman, presumably an idolater, and they're in a holy space and they're desecrating it, which is definitely sort of goes against that first one. Licentiousness, of course, they were, like I said, they were committing a modest sexual act in a holy space. So that's also one of them. And then the murder happens on the part of Pinchas. So this story actually does connect a little bit to the reasons given by the Talmud for the destruction of the temple. Like I said, Pinchas is lauded for his actions in the time that he lived. And I think that, like I said, there is something to be said for taking action when nobody else does. When you see something wrong being done, to go and to right that wrong. I think today, in today's society, we wouldn't condone Pinchas's actions. They are kind of specific to the time that he lived in, but he does, he gets the portion named after him, and he does get reward for his actions. But certainly, I think we're supposed to take this story, and I think we're supposed to struggle with it, because on the one hand, righting a wrong, you see something wrong being done and to take action, but on the other hand, to murder people is certainly not something that we would condone. In this particular instance, it's condoned, but I think today we take that in a different light. So I think in light of the fact that we are beginning to mark this time, I think it serves us to reflect on instances in our lives where we need to step up and take action, and to also pause and to think about what those actions will do and what sort of repercussions they have, and to think about how to do that in a way that, unlike Pinchas, I think would be lauded in today's world, right? So to take action is the right step, but to think about what that action will be and what kind of repercussions it has in this world.